So we welcome everyone for today morning reading and studying of Bhagavad Gita with the new timings. From today onward, we are starting our this Be a Yogi program from 7:45 to 8:30. We're going to study for 45 minutes now. So we are on the 18th and the concluding chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where more or less Lord Shri Krishna is actually just summarizing and concluding the whole discussion that he has had with Arjuna. So let's offer prayers and then we'll get into a study of this very, very beautiful discussion. Om Jnanathmirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Vena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravacharino Nirvishesha Shunyavad Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chapter 18, titled as Conclusion, the Perfect of Renunciation. Arjuna Vacha Sanyasyasya Mahabhaho Tattvam Ichchami Veditam Tyagasya Charishikesha Pratakeshi Nishudana. So, one of the longest discussions of the Bhagavad Gita, around 78 verses. In fact, the biggest chapter in that sense. And it has different set of discussions. So right now, in this particular, the first set of verses, here Arjuna is asking a question about, Tyaga and sannyas. What is the difference? What is better, Tyaga or renunciation? Sannyas asya mahabhav. Sannyas means renunciation. Tattvam ichchami veditum. Tattva means tathya, sachai. I am eager to know. Ichchami, meri ichcha hai. Veditum. Veditum means Veda, to know. Veditum. Tyagasya cha rishikesha. Tyag. त्याग क्या होता है हे ऋषिकेश पृथक केशी निशुदना पृथक मतलब different. So what is the difference between sannyas and त्याग? O ऋषिकेश ओ केशी निशुदन आप उसका उत्तर दें. Beautiful, huh? Because ऋषिकेश also केशी निशुदना. Can you all move forward? Rishikesh, come here. Come here in the front. At least all the new boys should come in the front. They should not be sitting in the last row. Sorry, what here? There's a space here. Rishikesh, क्या नाम है? Oh, here. क्या नाम है अपना? Mehta ji. Yeah. All right. Purport. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses the devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. The same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service. Yoginam api sarvesham mad katena antaratmanam shadavan bhajate same yuktatamo mataha. Of all yogis, or transcendentalist, one who always think of me within himself is best. In the next 6 chapters, pure devotion service and its nature, activity were discussed. That is 7 to 12. And the third 6 chapters, which means 13th onward, knowledge, renunciation, activities of material nature, transcendental nature, devotional service were described. It was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat. That concludes the discussion we discussed last time, which indicate Vishnu. The third part of Bhagavad Gita has shown that devotional service and nothing else is the ultimate purpose of life. This has been established by citing past acharyas and the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. Certain impersonalists consider themselves to have a monopoly on the knowledge of Vedanta Sutra. But actually, the Vedanta Sutra is meant for understanding devotional service. For the Lord Himself is the composer of the Vedanta Sutra and He is its knower. That is described in the 15th chapter. In every scripture, every Veda, devotional service is the objective. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita. As in 2nd chapter, a synopsis of the whole subject matter was described. In the 18th chapter, also the summary of all instructions is given. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of the transcendental position above the 3 modes of material nature. Arjuna wants to clarify the 2 distinct subject matter of Bhagavad Gita: Tyaga, that is renunciation, and sannyas. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these words. It's an extremely important question, particularly for those who are on the path of transcendence, because this really confuses. Am I supposed to be practicing renunciation, or am I supposed to be practicing sannyas order? Or well, our renunciation is meant for sannyasi. I am not sannyasi. Nitai Gaur Haribol. So enjoy. No, that's not the point. That's the conclusion people drive otherwise. 2 words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord: Rishikesh, Kesh, and Nishudana. Rishikesh is Krishna, the master of senses, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjuna requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubts. Doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Keshi Nishudan. Just like you had killed Keshi demon, similarly, you may kindly destroy my doubts. Now Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt. Hare Krishna. So that's the whole discussion. Let's get into it. What is renunciation and what is sannyas? Text number 2. Lord Krishna answers. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshane. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And giving up the results of activities is what the wise call renunciation. One who stops performing actions is called sannyasi. One who gives us the results of his action is called tyagi. Anyone tyagi here? In UP, you have many tyagis. Or maybe Bihar will also have some tyagis. But in general, what tyagi means and what sannyasi means, sannyasi is an order where now he is not going to engaged in any kind of mundane affairs. He has withdrawn all his senses. Tyagi means all you IT folks can be tyagi. You continue engaging in activities, but you detach yourself from the results. You give up the results of your work. So what devotee should be? Sannyasi or tyagi? A devotee needs to practice a path of this renunciation where they give up the desire to enjoy the results of their action. That's the point. But Mother Medhavani, please. Okay, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, Prabhu.
Voice is breaking. Maybe poor internet connection. Internet has not been working fine. Yeah. Yes, mother, go ahead.
Prabhupada ki jai. The performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good sun or to attain elevation to the higher planets, but sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifice for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in the spiritual science should not be given up. Thank you, Prabhu.
Dayajayam doshavat iti eke karma praho manishinaha yagnadana tapa karma natyajayam iti chapare. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that acts of charity Hare Krishna. Till the time the other system comes back, are we continuing? I'm audible to everyone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, purport. Okay, Mother Priyanka, go ahead, read the purport.
There are many activities in the Vedic literature which are subjects of contention. For instance, it is said that an animal can be killed in a sacrifice, yet some maintain that animal killing is completely abominable. Although animal killing in a sacrifice is recommended in the Vedic literature, the animal is not considered to be killed. The sacrifice is to give a new life to the animal. Sometimes the animal is given a new animal life after being killed in the sacrifice, and sometimes the animal is prompted immediately to the human form of life. But there are different opinions among the sages. Some say that animal killing should always be avoided, and others say that for a sacrifice, a specific sacrifice, it is good. All these different opinions on sacrificial activities are now being clarified by the Lord himself. Hare Krishna.
So some sages say that we should give all fruitive activities, just like, particularly this is on giving up fruitive activities is good. But if in case that activity purifies you, that should not be given up. That is a bhakti understanding. Like, the sannyas order in impersonalistic or Mayavadi tradition, they say, no, nothing doing with money. And Prabhupada say, bring all the money and take my photo with money. Why? People should know that I accept charity. Why? Because I'm going to use that wealth in the service of the Lord. That's the point. So there are different opinions. So what is the right thing? So Krishna is saying there are different opinions. Let's take a look what Krishna says. Text number 4, Krishna says, Nishchayam Shunume Tatra, which means certainly Shunumi ab suno musse. What is the right path? Nishchayam Shunume Tatra Tyage Bharata Sattama Tyago hi Purusha Vyagra Trivida Samprakrititi. Obey Sadvat, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men. Hare Krishna. Yeah. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of 3 kinds. Oh, really? Renunciation is also 3 kinds. Any guesses? What are these 3 renunciations? Raise your hand. What are the 3 kinds of renunciations? You know the answer. How do you not know? Bolo. That's it. Whenever there is number 3 modes only. That's it. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, according to the modes. All right. Although the differences of opinion of the renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord, yet the Lord is personally present and his word should be taken as final. The law says the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes and material nature in which they are performed. Text number 5. Yagnadana tapa karma natyajyam karyam evatat yagnadanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. So do not give up the acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, even if you are a devotee. Now you think because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I don't have to follow anything. No, the acts of sacrifice, charity, penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, penance purify even the Pavanani Manishinam. Manishinam is purified souls, great souls. Pavanani means even it purifies the great souls. Like that. Purport. Mother Induradika, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The yogi should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yajna. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasi should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of the heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful point. Everything has to be seen in the context of purpose. What is a purpose? Without having an understanding of purpose, to disown any activity can have reverse effects. So Prabhupada is giving an example of Vivaha Yajna. Interestingly, Prabhupada is quoting an example of Vivaha Yajna because he himself performed marriage ceremonies in the early days for his disciples. And Prabhupada there made a point. If you read about in 66, 67, when he did some Vivaha Yajna, Prabhupada said, well, this is not a job of sannyasi. But what to do? I have to do it. Because to help my disciples become stable in spiritual life and lead a proper life, I have to establish that. So like that, Srila Prabhupada did it. And very beautiful point, Prabhupada says, although sannyasi is renounced, but he should not speak about only renunciation, thinking from his platform. We have to consider what's the consciousness of the other person. Just to speak, and if I can just make one or 2 points here, this is what makes the difference between, let's say, our Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Parampara precisely, or let's say Srila Prabhupada's contribution. It is not easy when you are at certain level of transcendence to be able to understand what's going on at the lower stages, particularly when your mind is absorbed in transcendence. For us to be able to think what people in the lower strata of consciousness are thinking and undergoing, you really need to, for a while, disconnect from that consciousness and come back here. Therefore, when we define about Srila Prabhupada, we say Srila Prabhupada, being an Uttamadhikari, for the sake of preaching, for the sake of delivering, he came down to Madhyamadhikari stage so that he understands what's going on. If you cannot relate to students, how can you really help in their life? To say for anything and everything, just to quote a shloka, it's just not going to work it out. If that was the case, why Srila Prabhupada had to do this Vivaha Yajna? Why Srila Prabhupada had to institute an institution for that? Prabhupada could have just, let's say, there are many great personalities, elevated personalities in Vrindavan. Every time, every decade, we'll have some prominent personality by their austerities, penances, and devotion. They become very famous and all that. You have a huge following for them, great. But often it is seen after their disappearance or after when they go back home, back to Godhead, their disciples cannot keep up pace with what their spiritual master taught. Why? Because he taught something very lofty, which they were very inspired till the time they had the Vapu Sangha. But because they could not really come to or raise themselves to that level of consciousness, then the whole thing collapses, kind of thing, like a pack of cards. But in our parampara, like Srila Rupa Goswami, he was inspired to write Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Updeshamrita, that talks about. Then we have Madhurya Kadamani, etc. How a sadhaka's life begins and the challenges sadhaka faces and the process of progress, like that. So that's a big difference. So a yogi or a sannyasi or an renunciate actually should work in this way, so the whole society is benefited. That's the point Prabhupada is mentioning here. Text number 6 now. Etani apitu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani time patam nishitam matamuttamam. All this activity should be performed without attachment to any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O Sanapratha. That is my final opinion. I mean, does it sound familiar that Krishna has spoken like this before also? From the beginning of, let's say, literally from 2nd chapter, or let's say more precisely from 3rd chapter, Krishna is saying, perform your action, but without attachment to those results. Now think about what about seva, service? Krishna has to directly speak of devotion service. How much would he say that you do your devotion service? Why are you so much result conscious? Isn't it? Anything we do, So when we are undergoing a transition phase, we all are under transition from our conditioned life to a life of transcendence. We have to be a little bit careful and alert that I'm bringing the baggage of conditionings with me. I should not be super excited to showcase those conditionings in the Vaishnava forum. And you can only do that when you have understood, I need to learn and improve. The moment I give up this mode of consciousness that I'm a student, I am a learner, then we begin to showcase our conditioning, thinking that that is what devotional life is all about. And it is time and again we get into that zone. This is something we all need to be reminded, Baba, you're a student right now. We're on the process. We have not yet crossed the modes of material nature. We are still into it and we have huge baggage of conditioning. So take care of it. How many of you would agree, although we kind of know of it, but time and again, some course of action we kind of forget, and there is a sense of attachment to result. Attachment of result means what? Puja la pratishta. Sense of recognition. It's a recurring fact. Keep on coming back, like that. Krishna says, this is my final opinion. Mother Anjana, please read the purport.
Hare Krishna. Although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord should be accepted. This is the highest criteria of religion. A devotee of Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord.
Hare Krishna. Now we'll have a discussion on renunciation according to the modes. Okay, let me ask you, make a guess. What would be the renunciation according to ignorance, mode of ignorance? What would be the practice of renunciation? Yes, sure. Not taking responsibility, being frustrated. Okay. What else? What would you think acts of renunciation would be in a mode of ignorance? Okay, what would be the acts of renunciation in mode of passion? Expecting results, like what? Puja lapaja. It is done for show off. What else? Getting puffed up over the renunciation, take care. That's mode of passion. What would be renunciation performed according to mode of goodness consciousness? I'm the servant, okay? Yeah, for my purification. I will do it because it is meant for me to be done. For my purification. It's a matter of duty. Goodness. Passion is a matter of show off. But ignorance, hell with everything, hell with myself. I don't know what I'm doing. That is what mode of ignorance. No idea what I'm doing. Self-destructive. Mode of ignorance means self-destructive. Let's take a look at text number 7. Niyatasya tu sanyasya karmano nopapadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasa parikirtite. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up prescribed duties because of illusions, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So he does not perform only the prescribed duties. Purport, Mother Sangeeta, go ahead, read out.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Work for material satisfaction must be given up, but activities which promote one to spiritual activity, like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering the food to the Lord and then accepting the food, are recommended. It is said that a person in the renounced order of life should not cook for himself. Cooking for oneself is prohibited, but cooking for the Supreme Lord is not prohibited. Similarly, a sannyasi may perform a marriage ceremony to help his disciple in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. If one renounces such activities, it is to be understood that he is acting in the mode of darkness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here, right now, the discussion is on in terms of prescribed duties. So those who give up the prescribed duties, that is in ignorance. Not knowing what to perform, what not to perform, like that. Now, what would be about prescribed duties? How would someone look at the prescribed duties and mode of passion? It's just like somebody wants to join brahmachari ashram. Why? I'm frustrated with my manager. I'm frustrated with my manager. Somebody wants to join brahmachari ashram. I'm just not getting promotion. I'm trying year after year. I'm frustrated with what's going on. So do give up like this. Something like that Arjuna was also doing. He also wanted to, of course, as Arjuna was not frustrated in that sense, So that's the point about giving up actions. Let's say what happened in mode of passion. Dukham iti eva yat karma dukham. जहां लगता है कि मुझे दुख मिलेगा कर्म करते हुए काया क्लेशा भया तेजत kaya kalesha, for the body there'll be trouble out of fear. Tayajat means to give up. Sakratvaraj samtyagam. Such tyaga, giving up of action, is said to be in mode of passion. Naiva tyaga phalam labet. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. There seems to be other Mother Priyanka here. Please go ahead, Mother. Read out the purport. Hare Krishna.
One who is in Krishna consciousness does not give up earning money out of fear, but keeps performing spirituality activities. If by working one can increase his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation.
Text number 9. Now, how does one take a look at prescribed duties in mode of goodness? Now, in ignorance, no idea what to perform, not to perform. Mode of passion knows what is right, but does not perform out of fear of bodily discomfort. In mode of goodness, whatever it is summer, winter, waking up in the morning is required, will wake up. It is my duty, the platform duty. Karyamiti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko matah. Arjuna, when performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and answers all material association and all attachment to the fruits, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. Text number 20. Na dveshti akushalam karma kushalena anusajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medha vichinna samshaya. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness neither hates or neither hateful of inauspicious work, nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. A person in Krishna consciousness or in the mode of goodness does not hate anyone or anything which troubles his body. He does work in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. Such a person situated in transcendence should be understood to be most intelligent and beyond all doubts in his activities. Text number 6, go back, reading the last 3 lines of text number 6 purport. A devotee of the Lord should accept, all of you, I want you to all read along with me. Text 6, last lines. Is it clear? All you got it? Let's read together. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. That's the point Prabhupada has mentioned in the text number 10. The wise, intelligent renouncer is one. He is not so much affected by what work it is, as long as it is ought to be done. So he does not mind taking up certain austerity because this is going to create a discomfort for the body. Matter of fact is, body in any situation would be always an inconvenience. Change of weather, inconvenience. Sometimes different devotees have different kind of bodies. Sometimes you put a fan on a high speed, inconvenience for some people. You put a fan on low speed, inconvenience for other set of people. You switch off the fan, inconvenience for both the set of people. So somebody or other would always be in under inconvenience. Our body would always have some other trouble like that. Okay, text number 11. Nahi deya vrata sakyam tyaktam karmani sheshada yastu karma phalatyagi satyagiti abhidiyate. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the force of action is called one who has truly renounced. We cannot give up the fruits of, we cannot give up the activities. Karmatma buddhi. It is impossible in our state. But if we cannot give, then dovetail. Serve for Krishna. How? Engage the results of your action in the service of Krishna. Purpose. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that one can never give up work at any time. Therefore, he who works for Krishna and does not enjoy the fruited results, who offers everything to Krishna, is actually a renouncer. There are many members of the International Society of Krishna who works very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. What a beautiful point. The renunciation is not judged according to your ashram. Renunciation is not judged according to your dress. Renunciation or the spirit of renunciation is judged according to your actions. That's the true way of it. Just like at one point of time in our culture, we started judging somebody to be a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra according to their birth. But what does Krishna says? Chaturvidha maya shashtam guna karma vibhaga. Karma. What is your disposition? What is your actions? That determines your Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Getting it? Similarly, drawing the same line of thought here, we being a devotee, sometimes you find people outside who seems to be far much more cultured, sensitive, and have a gentleman disposition. Of course, in one way, we are chanting Hare Krishna is definitely all glorious. But Krishna says, we discussed 12th chapter yesterday, what qualities endear one to me. We are chanting Hare Krishna, but we are still in our action a little violent, a little abusive, a little insensitive. I mean, what you are then? Maybe something like followers of Vritrasura. Could be, he was violent towards, of course, he was a pure devotee, but in the sense, nobody could understand he was a devotee because his actions were not like a devotee. So somewhere, somehow, we have got this kind of thought, externals is what all matters. But once you understand, then you realize externals not as, of course, matters, but is not all in all. there has to be equivalent internal transformation. And I guess again, our males of Amas, ladies of Venus, this was a whole subject matter. That how about our internal consciousness has to be evolved. When we did that course of human psychology, 2 years ago, like that. So how our internal consciousness has to be evolved, our actions have to be evolved, like that. So that's the same line of thought here. You still continue to perform actions, but what you do with the result will determine you're a devotee or not. That's the point here. Text number 12. Anishtamishtam mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavati atyaginam pratya natu sanyasinam kachet. Or one who is not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, makes accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy, which means a karma. While even performing karma, what he accrued was a karma, no result of actions, which means if there is nothing to suffer and enjoy after the end of life, which means you're fired from material world. Maya Devi have fired her from your responsibilities that you have been so dutifully carrying out under her jurisdiction, because she's not paying you anymore. Neither the suffering nor the good results. You're going back to Godhead. So this firing this is very desirable, huh? At least by one person, we should definitely get fired. Maya Devi. That is the most fortunate occasion to happen in our life. Purports. Okay. A person in Krishna conscious acting in knowledge or relationship with Krishna is always liberated. Therefore, he does not have to enjoy or suffer the results of his acts after death. Now, very interesting discussion. He does not have to suffer the results of his act after birth. Arjuna ponders, oh my Lord, but how can somebody who performs an action may not be really attached to the results? Huh? Itna mehnat kara, इतनी साल पढ़ाई करी, संघर्ष मार के कॉलेज में एडमिशन लिया, संघर्ष मार के रात को जाग के एग्जाम पास किए, जैसे तैसे जॉब मिली, और आप कहते हो सारी सैलरी भगवान को दे दो। क्या प्रभु, आपने तो कहा है लक्ष्मी सहस्त्र शत संभ्रम सेव्यमानो, इतनी लक्ष्मी होने के बाद हमारी लक्ष्मी पर भी नजर है, क्या चल रहा है प्रभु? थोड़ा तो शेयरिंग होना चाहिए, है ना? आप लक्ष्मी देवी को रखो, लक्ष्मी देवी के कुछ ऑपुलेंस हमारे पास रहने दो। Why? So that's a thought which is now happening here from 13 verse onwards. Panchaitani mahabhao karanani nibodhame shankha kartante proktani siddhai sarva karmanam. Almighty armed Arjuna. According to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of these from me. Namadavni, please use the purport.
A question may be raised that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that the person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reactions of work? The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. He says that there are 5 causes for all activities, and for success in all activity, one should consider these 5 causes. Sankhya means the stock of knowledge, and Vedanta is the final stock of knowledge accepted by all leading acharyas. Even Shankara accepts Vedanta Sutra as such. Therefore, such authority should be consulted. The ultimate control is invested in the super soul. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishtaha. He is engaging everyone in certain activities by reminding him of his past actions. And Krishna conscious acts done under his direction from within yield no reaction, either in this life or in the life after death. Thank you, Prabhupada.
We'll make this as the last verse for today. Text number 14. Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha pratak vidham vividha cha pratak cheshta daivam chaivata panchamam. Daivam chaivata panchamam. So there are 5 factors responsible because of which any action is performed. Any thoughts? What could be? I mean, is there anything that is beyond us could be responsible for the actions that we perform? Any thought? Just think if they could. You think, in case you know the verse, don't answer. If you read it before, don't answer. Those who have not, I just want what possibility could be there, just to do a little thought process here. What could you think? Maybe my manager, because he gave me the work, so I should give him some credit, because jab seva mili tabhi to seva hui. I'm just saying something could be. Madhendra Radhika, past karma. Past karma. Okay. The demigods. Okay. Yeah, I mean, kind of, you have an idea, then you're saying, otherwise, who knows about demigods today? Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything else? Huh? Destiny. Okay. Interesting. Destiny. Good. What else? All right. It's a very difficult question. I totally acknowledge. I was just saying, if in case we can think of that there is somebody beyond I also who is responsible for what I'm doing. Unless we have that little bit of clarity, understanding, we will not be able to give up the controllership mentality, because we think I have done it. And the outside world tells you, you have done it. You know, like that. So let's take a look at it. Madana, 3 doers. Very nice. 3 doers. Yeah, you guys forgot 3 doers. Right? We discussed 3 doers, have been discussed in the 5th chapter already. Let's see what is. Adhishtanam tatha karta. So what are the 5 things? Adhishtanam, the place. What is the place? Hinjawadi, phase 3 TCS. Cubicle number 5. Tower 2. I don't know if that's how your office address is. I mean, I just Adhishtanam. Adhishtanam is Kshetra. What is Kshetra? Body. So without body, if somebody is a ghost, he cannot perform an action. So first of all, you need a body. That itself brings the concept of Deva then. Because you have not chosen the body. The body is given by Karamana Deva Naitena Jantu Deha Utpatte. The body is given by Deva Nitrena. So I mean, I'm just making connections to help you understand the whole thing. You know, so if you say the place, the body, Adhishtanam, the body is not mine. I mean, the mind means it's been given to you, but it's not chosen by me. So who has given the body? Deva. Medium, my mother, father. So there are many factors involved like this. Adhishtanam tatha karta. So first is the place, second is karta. Karta is the worker. Now who is the worker? Who is the worker? Software engineer level 1, Manish Sisodria. Sorry, who's Manish Sisodria? Sound like AP worker. Okay. maybe I just checked headline recently. So that's the reason the name is in my mind. So who is the worker? The soul. Soul. Okay. Who is the worker? The soul. Come. सुन लो पहले, फिर तुम क्वेश्चन उठाना. Then adhishtanam tatha karta karanam. Karanam. Karanam क्या है? Karanam are the instruments by which action has been performed. So by which action is performed? Laptop, smartphone, और नहीं होए, ये तो बाहर के हैं. Your senses. What a fantastic concept, isn't it? Is an interesting way of understanding you're not the body but spiritual. You can only understand that when at least theoretically you know you're not the body but soul. Now look at it. Adhishtanam, the body. Karta, the worker, that is soul. Karanam. Karanam means the instruments. What are the instruments? Those are the senses. Cha, prathak, vidham, of different kind. 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses. Right? Vividhas, various. Cha, prathak, cheshta. Prathak, separate. Cheshta means endeavors, effort. That becomes the 4th. And finally, Daivim Chaivatra Panchamam, and Daiva, the supreme, or that is also called as at times destiny. You can call it super soul. Let's take a look at the verse. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, different kinds of endeavor. Vividha cha pratak cheshta. Different kinds of endeavor क्यों बोला गया है? Endeavors according to goodness, passion, ignorance. Endeavors according to goodness, passion, and Krishna is going to speak about it in a short while. And ultimately, the super soul. So Daivam or Daiva means either destiny or super soul. Why sometimes we loosely call it destiny is something which is decide it for us. But who gives that? That is super soul. Super soul is the one who functions. Let's take a look at the purport. The word Adhisthana refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activity and is therefore known as karta, the doer. Soul to kuch karta hi nahi. That would be the question. But why Prabhupada said? Why Krishna says karta? What does soul do? What does soul do? Soul maintains the body. Desires. That is why karta. That is what karta means. We have discussed this elaborately in the 5th chapter. We as individuals only have one freedom. Ichha. Ichha. To desire. Okay. So only thing that we have is desire. And we have discussed what's the purpose of having a saintly association? To transform that desire. What's the purpose of having saintly association? Is to transform our desire. That the soul is the knower and the doer is stated in the Shruti. Esha hidrashta shrashta. It is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra. Nyomata eva karta shastra arthavatvat. The instruments of actions are the senses. That is karanam. And by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is a different endeavor. But all one's activity depend on the will of super soul. Upadrashta anumantacha bharta bhokta maishvara. Who is seated within the heart as a friend. There are certain verses that we should by heart. One is this. Other verse is the 12th chapter where we made yesterday afternoon we discussed about 12.2. Where we gave a reference to the 2 previous verses, Nitya Yukta Upasana, Samya Yukta Tamataha, like that. That's the one which really concludes the discussion impersonal personalism. The role of super soul. Krishna is not directly involved. It is super soul. Get that straight. Upadrashta Anumantada, 13th chapter, we discuss about it. Similarly, certain 9th chapter verses 11 to let's say verse up to 17 about the 3 kinds of faith. Okay, that not 2 variety, but yeah, 4 varieties of people who believe or don't believe, 7.15 and 16 like that. There's certain verses. If we can really memorize them, we'll have a little clear vision of what's going around. We'll have some little clear vision to begin with, like that. And of course, what is that? Text 20 of the 2nd chapter. I'm not the body but spiritual. Na jayate mriyate vakada. Like this. And this, one or 2 verses from here, other verses from the 3rd chapter. Kamesha krodesha rajaguna samudva. Why am I forced to act against my will? So these are things which are very practical and we need to deal with day to day. These are some of the verses which should really memorize it. And this is 14th verse. So all the instrument action senses, where the senses soul action in various ways. For each and every action, there's different elements, but all one activity depends on the will of the super soul, is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super cause. Without his permission, nothing can happen. Under these circumstances, he who is acting Krishna consciousness under the direction of super soul, seated in the heart, is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Just like the military officer fighting a war against the enemy at the border, would he be held responsible for killing? He'll be rather awarded, isn't it? Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, the supreme person. And the same person, if he comes down in his society and happens gets into altercation, he kills somebody, then the government will hold him responsible. That is called as karma, and what he performed on behalf of the government is called akarma. Similarly, when somebody is in tune with super soul and performs action as directed by super soul, then all that actions externally may look like mundane actions, but that does not accrue any kind of karma. Prabhu? No shifting, huh? You're distracting me now. What was I making a point? Yeah, so the point was just kind of lost the thought. So those who are in line with the super soul, even though they perform action, yet they don't perform action. Why? Because super soul takes responsibility of it. Therefore, I'll conclude with the Prabhupada writes in the 1st canto, is one of my favorite statements. Anything and everything that we ought to be doing in our life, if we get the blessing of the Varishta, senior devotees, that action becomes auspicious, even if you have not got the expected result. But even if your so-called activity, maybe you're calling it a devotional service, if it is unless authorized and blessed by seniors, is not considered bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself showcased this example. He did not start preaching until he went and met Ishwarapuri. This is the foundation of Krishna consciousness. This is the foundation. We have to accept the reality. We have to get into our head. We cannot just do things. You may do things by yourself. You may produce auspicious result. That's not bhakti yet. So everything has to be blessed. Endeavors that we do has to be sanctioned. When it is sanctioned, then the one who has sanctioned is bearing the responsibility. You don't have to worry about it. For example, I'll give you one or two examples that you might are familiar of it. Just like Ekadashi. Ekadashi is pretty confusing within ISKCON. कहीं पे गाजर नहीं खाते तो कहीं पे आलू नहीं खाते हो, कहीं पे गाजर आलू ही खाते हैं. बंगाल चले जाओ तो, राइट? दिल्ली चले तो गाजर नहीं खाना, है ना? साबुदाना नहीं खाना, गाजर टमाटर अलग अलग चीजें करके. Can I imagine you're moving from one place to another and suddenly get to know? I remember I was in Delhi and my mother had made gajar khalwa. It was Ekadashi. We eat gajar khalwa. I went there and after 2 people, oh, आपको पता नहीं एकादशी? मैं कहा एकादशी क्यों नहीं पता रे? क्या ऐसी इतने साल थोड़ा ISKCON में बिता दी, एकादशी भी नहीं पता होगी? तो बोला गाजर हलवा क्यों कराए? मैंने कहा एकादशी व्हाट्स अ बिग डील, गाजर हलवा. बोले हम गाजर नहीं खाते. मैंने कहा गाजर नहीं खाते, ये क्या है भाई? नहीं खाते, होगा एकादशी, वहां दिल्ली में कुछ होगा नाम लाइक दैट. अब अलग. Now the point is there are certain things which at times vary. Now how do you reconcile? Simple. This has been decided by my authority. He has told. Who bears the result for it? That's it. No, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's the reason we need to work under the guidance. If somebody has told us to do this, now how do you reconcile? We eat gajar here. Some places they eat sabudana. We don't eat sabudana. So if temple is serving you sabudana, then take it. Is temple authority who going to bear the karma for it if it's something wrong? Because the more you grow in responsibility in Krishna consciousness, the more accountable you're held by the Lord. इसलिए चैतन्य महाप्रभु दासानु दासी सबसे बढ़िया है. Do not try to become master. You try to become master, you'll be beaten up left and right. Because unless you're really qualified for that, unless you're that adhikar, you're really taking a huge responsibility. And huge responsibility means decision making. The ability to make right decision, even at times, which seems confusing. So it's a tricky thing. So temple authority, what will do? Temple authority, bhaiya, jo GBC ne bola hai. So therefore, what we do, we follow. We don't say we're going to do like this. That doesn't happen. That's a foundation. And thus we need to get it set in our head. If we do it, then we become a healthy contributor and we grow nicely. Otherwise, unnecessarily, we go through a lot of trouble. So, all right, with that, we'll pause here. Text number 14. Tomorrow on, we'll read text number 15 onwards. So sorry, this became a kind of a 1 hour Bhagavad Gita class. Meant to be 40 minutes. It's almost close to what? 840 right now. But this is one of the last chapter. We'll conclude with that. So any quick question or comment on this from any audience here? Okay. Well, the Medavani, in case we are meeting, right? That time we'll catch up with your question. Okay. We'll do that. All right. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Hare Krishna.